Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode with the Creative Finance Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Jen.
I'm Joe.
And we are so excited today. We are going through our Facebook group questions. We drop in there, ask us your questions, a live Q&A session happening right now. So maybe one of your questions is going to get answered on this episode today.
Yay, can't wait. And there's always a ton of great questions that y'all drop in that group. So if you want your questions answered, make sure you're joining our Facebook group, Creative Finance Playbook, and drop your questions there and we could answer them for you.
Yes. So we're going to get right into it. We don't want to waste any time here because we know we're all really busy. So let's get right to the point here. How do you structure terms to pitch? So I think the question coming from Shane here is, what has been your most successful initial pitch? So I think what happens is people don't know how to even bring up the subject of seller financing terms. So how do you walk through, like, what is one way that you can kind of give our folks listening today and answer Shane? What do you say to people when you're trying to get them to learn about terms and if they'd be open to it?
So that's a great question, Shane. We get that question often. I would say the one thing which is important, and if you don't have it already, you should, but go to our website, creativefinanceplaybook.com, and you could download our script for free. This is the same script that we use as our own team and our clients do all over the country to do a ton of these deals. So the biggest questions are more of their motivation. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to work with motivated sellers. So instantly I want to eliminate the ones who are not motivated, right? But then on our script, which is fantastic, it's really just a series of questions that we ask. It's the 10 magic questions we ask every seller. And so the script actually does the magic for you. You don't even have to worry about it. The first question, really simple. Can you please tell me about your property? But then deeper in the script, it actually says, hey, if I were to pay your price, would you be open to terms? It goes a little bit more into depth like that, but that's what it is, right? So the script actually gives us a series of questions that we ask the seller, and therefore the seller makes us the offer. And they will say, I will be open to terms, and they're going to outline what they're willing to do. And then as our job as the investor, we're going to look at the deal and see if the deal makes sense. And sometimes it's a wonderful thing and we're ready to move to the next step. Sometimes we need to, maybe renegotiate a few things. But how to have that conversation, really simple. Find out what's their burning desire, what's their problem, what's their pain even, right? And then see if offering this is a great solution. And many times it is, because I could be paying more than other investors can who are just looking to get huge discounts because they're looking to pay cash. And we do too. However, there's plenty of times where I'm buying a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood and they're not going to give you that discount because it really doesn't need any work. So when they want top dollar, well, I could stretch and pay that if you're open to terms. So that's a great way to transition into that. Many times they're going to ask what terms are. Stick to the script, guys. It's so easy. It spells it out for you. So easy. Anybody could do it. So if you don't already have it, creativefinanceplaybook.com will help you get what you're trying to get accomplished.
So to piggyback on that, you talk a lot about the 4 deal points.
Yep.
What are the 4 major deal points to a terms deal?
Woo. Okay. So the 4 major deal points for me, the most important one is we typically buy with no money down. So my down payment, I want that to be close to 0 as possible. Number 2, the most important is the monthly payment. If I'm doing the deal, do I have some rental spread there from what my payment would be versus what the rent would be? So number 2, I need to find out what my monthly payment is. Number 3 is going to be term length. Right. So I have sellers who say, hey, Joe, this works, but I need to get cashed out in 1 year. Well, that's not going to usually work. Many times we're getting 10, 20, 30 years for these terms. Ideally, I want longer, the better. You do too. And then the 4th is the price, which is really incredible the way we do it, because I listed mine in what I desire. And the least out of the 4 is the price, which is usually their hottest topic when you're a seller, is the price. So which is most important to a seller out of the 4 is the least important to me. I still want to get a good deal, don't get me wrong, but I could pay a very fair price, higher than just about anybody else can, if the terms make sense. And that's how we do these deals. And investors are scratching their heads wondering how we did it. It's by getting great terms.
Love it. This one comes from Jeremiah Smith.
What up, Jeremiah?
When buying a property sub 2 or on a wrap, what happens to the homestead exemption?
Well, you're going to lose it. So what is the homestead exemption? First of all, that means that it is your primary residence. So when I'm buying a property from somebody, and maybe it's the house they're living in, they get a discount on their property taxes for it being their primary home. Now, if I'm going to buy that from them on a wrap or a seller finance or subject to, or however you're going to do it, if you're going to buy that from them, certainly can. We do a lot of those deals. However, if it's not going to be your primary residence and you're going to turn it into a rental, you're going to not get that discount as if it was your primary residence, what they call homestead. Now, in some states, it's a very small swing. And in some states, it's a very large swing, especially places like South Carolina, where if it's your primary residence, your taxes are very inexpensive for the year. But if you move out and you turn this into a rental or an Airbnb or anything else, your taxes go up. They increase like a lot. So before you make that deal, you're going to want to call the county and find out if you were to buy it at the new price, what would the taxes go to? If it's not your primary residence and you're going to turn it into a rental, what would those taxes go to? And then you're going to need to really look deeper into that deal to find out if this deal is actually worth making or not, because many times you might lose that homestead discount. And when you thought you were cash flowing, now it turns into negative cash flow because your taxes increased. Maybe your purchase price was higher than what it was assessed at previously and made the taxes increase as well. So there could be that could happen, and it does all of the time. So these are one of the things that you really need to do your due diligence about. So if I'm going to buy a property, I will call the county tax assessor, say I'm buying it for this amount. It's going to be a rental. What can I estimate my taxes to go to, and when does that go into effect? Just so there's no surprises.
So a question that comes a lot, and I feel like it's a little bit of a heated debate. So is it cash flow or is it appreciation that you're buying properties for?
Cash is king. Okay. So let me give you an example. And this is where maybe because I've been doing this for 24 years. I hear people say that they only worry about appreciation and they don't worry about cash flow. Well, when people say it's always a good time to buy real estate, that's not true. If you bought real estate in 2005, 2006, 2007, some of you maybe you're listening and you don't, and you haven't. Well, if you bought back then, and especially many of these cities across the country, if you bought on only appreciation, well, those prices cut in like half, in many places, even less. Okay. And the curve didn't come back to that 06 value until 2021. That means there's 15 years of management, maintenance, repairs, all the utilities, and you're not making money for 15 years just to get back to breaking even. So as far as I'm concerned, I love appreciation. We all do. But if you're not making cash flow every single month, that's a long time of not making any money. For me, if the properties go up in value or if they go down in value, I am still making money every single month. And eventually, hold it long enough, they will go up in value. But you got to make money every month. So if something happens like a repair or something, how about your own pocket, right? Like you got to get paid for doing this. You're not going to do it for free. So cash is king. Cash flow is king. And appreciation is a wonderful thing when it works. However, when it doesn't work, boy, it could really put you in a bad spot. So if you don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
I kind of set you up for that one. I mean, I know your stance on it, but I've seen it kind of circulating on Instagram and Facebook. There's just a lot of people are just banking on appreciation. And I think that it's a great hill that you're standing on to just.
Well, if you got started in real estate in 2013, 2015, 2017, and this is the only cycle that you've ever been through, then I could see why that could happen. Where, I bought in 2000 and whatever year it was, and the market has been going up and it's been going up. Well, that's a wonderful thing. But let me tell you, if you bought a property, it's 2024 right now. If you bought one right now, especially in Florida, the market's kind of softening, could turn into a downturn. And if it does, how long does it take until that comes back again? Nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball. But if it does happen, you want to make money every single month, whether it's going up or down. And that's the key.
Perfect segue into the next question by David Pritchard. What are your thoughts on how to approach all these flip houses in my area that are just now sitting on the market? I know these guys are probably bleeding money and becoming more motivated by the day.
You got it right. I have a ton of sellers who are reaching out to us and say that they bought a property to use as an investment, right? And many of them were fix and flips, and now they're stuck in their flip and it's not selling. And here's the challenge that we run across with this all the time. Many of these flips, many of them have borrowed that money from what they call a money lender. And that money lender usually has a limit on the amount of time that they're allowed to borrow the money. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 12 months. So if you've bought a property and you did get 12 months, you borrowed the money to buy it, to renovate it, and you're going to obviously want to sell it, pay back your lenders, and walk away with a profit, right? But what's happening now is if the house sits on the market, you got to think about it. You've got all the contractors have got paid. The seller got paid when you bought the deal. Maybe you bought that deal from a wholesaler. They've got paid. The attorney gets paid when you bought it, right? All of the things, the utility companies are getting paid while you're owning it and you're doing the renovations. And you as the flipper are the last one to get paid. So that puts flippers in a really tough spot all to begin with. And now with those properties not selling, boy, they are reaching out a bunch. So I totally understand. The challenge is the way we do it. They don't really work out very well. And the reason for that is many times they owe that money to a money lender. Sometimes those rates are really, really high. And most of the time they got to get them paid back quickly. So if I'm buying a property and I'm going to buy it on terms, I'm buying it no money down. I have a low payment and I have a long term length. And these are things that they just don't add up with these people doing this. So if I find somebody who's flipped a house and they're having a hard time selling it, unfortunately, sometimes you just got to cut your losses and move on quick. Yeah. So as far as terms deals work on a recently flipped house, most of the time we do not do it. However, I'm going to go over a flip side of that. That flip house gets sold to somebody else. And now that somebody else needs to sell that house because if something happened in their family, then I can buy it. So many of the houses that we do buy on terms are actually from the seller who bought the house from the people who flipped it. Lived there for a very short time. Mm-hmm. Now it's time to sell. So, but when you're actually buying it from the flipper themselves, they just need to make some profit and pay off their lenders. So they don't usually have time like that.
So there's no way to go back and try to like negotiate paying the lender on behalf.
I mean, you can if the lender's flexible enough with the money that the way they've lent it, but sometimes, a lot of times that's not an option.
Sure. All right. So we got another question here from Blake Forkey. And he says it might be a dumb question. And guys, there's no dumb questions. When you're learning creative, the best thing to do is ask questions. Trust us. And it's really important to get your education. So do you ever work directly with wholesalers and pay the $10,000 assignment fee for a sub 2 deal if the deal looks good on paper? Or is this type of activity a scam? I haven't heard you mention this on your podcast yet. The convenience of being sent a sub 2 or a wraparound mortgage deal is nice, but it almost seems too good to be true.
Well, that's a great point. So can I do those deals? Have I done those deals? Absolutely, I have. It's a great source for getting deals. Many times you're going to have investors who maybe they don't have the $5,000 or $10,000 down to the seller plus closing costs, right? And many times I'm having wholesalers send me many deals per day, every day. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of them aren't that impressive. Sometimes they have a high cost of entry. I've seen some of these, they want $80,000 to get into the deal with paying some down payment to the seller and paying their assignment fee just to find out it doesn't even cash flow as a rental, which makes zero sense, guys. And I see these all over the time. Most of the time, these are from somebody who's maybe listened to a couple podcasts and they're getting adventurous and they're attempting to do it. Wonderful. But unless you've bought these deals and truly understand, like not only closing on it today, but what's it like owning this house 5 years later? Like what happens, right? So we've done a lot of those. So wholesalers, you know what? I talked to our assistant today, and one of the deals that we bought on Creative Finance from a wholesaler, that property's doubled in value in the last 4 years. And I paid that wholesaler a $5,000 assignment fee. And the reason why, he was somebody that was paying cash for junkers. And he says, Joe, I have a situation where a seller's motivated. They're moving out of state, but this isn't a junker. and they kind of want top dollar for it. But I thought of you. He sent us that lead. I've talked to the seller. I paid him $5,000 to bring us that deal. Best $5,000 practically spent, because now what I bought that property for was $5,000 to the wholesaler, no money down to the seller. We paid how many thousands in closing costs, which we've made all of that back and then some, because we did rent to own with our renter. But now, yes, we do want appreciation. Well, the house has doubled in value in 4 years. However, even if it did or didn't, doesn't make a difference, because we're cash flowing like fantastic every single month.
Gotta get that in there.
The icing on top of the cake is you're getting both of those, guys. So appreciation and cash flow. You want them both, ideally. So make sure when you're buying smart.
Okay, the big question, the big thing that holds a lot of people up from even wanting to get into creative, buying on sub 2 or on a wrap, the due on sale clause. What are you to do if they come a calling or a knocking and the boogeyman shows up?
Well, you could do a few different things, right? Say worst case scenario, what happens? You buy a deal on a subject to, or you buy it on a wrap. The bank gets notification it's happening, and the deal is coming to be a problem, right? Well, you can deed that property back into the seller's name, and then turn around and buy it with a land contract or a contract for deed. So the property is still deeded to the seller. I can deed the property back into the seller's name and then buy it on a lease purchase or a lease option, to where now I'm still controlling the property, but the loan is still in the seller's name and the deed is too. So now the bank can't do anything. However, we love to buy properties in land trusts, and land trust gives you a lot more flexibility as far as how you're taking ownership of it. And it's a little bit more protection than just, not doing that. So we love land trusts for many different reasons. And so I always recommend, when you're doing them, buy them in a land trust. And there's definitely ways to get around that too. So don't let the due on sale clause stop you from doing business. You can definitely do it. And the bank really doesn't want to take the house back. And so most of the time, if there's an issue, it's because they're not collecting their money on time, or you don't have your insurance set up the right way. So these are two crucial things. So if you're watching YouTube videos and you're going to figure it out as you go, guys, don't do that. Like, if you're going to be buying these deals, you really need to learn the ins and outs of it. Things a transaction coordinator will not do, because transaction coordinators, many times, they don't own houses. They just make sure the closing goes okay. That's all they do. So you really actually need to get education on how to do this properly yourself. So in 6 months, 12 months, a year or two later goes by and something happens, you know how to handle it because you've been properly trained and prepared.
Boom.
Bam.
There you go. All right. And the final question of the day, we're going to talk a little bit about rent to own here. Jeff Cody, I've heard others say the NROD, which stands for non-refundable option deposit, does not go towards the tenant buyer's future potential purchase. It grants more of an ownership stake in the property. Also, if you do, as I've heard that you guys do, apply it to the purchase, you're taking some of your equity now, I guess. And I guess that may not execute it down the road. So it's a moot point.
So is there a question? So I guess the thing is,
so basically, if they are putting a non-refundable option deposit down, does that mean they have ownership in the property? So
every court's going to look at it a little bit different, and depending where you were. Historically, always check with your own attorneys. I am not an attorney, but what I've found historically, if the renter is giving you a non-refundable option deposit and you have your paperwork set up the correct way, this is the key for your success, guys. If it's not on paper and it's not in the contract, it don't count. It's all about having the right contracts.
And that's actually, I answered this one. So yeah, I put that it is all in the paperwork. It depends on exactly what is said in the contracts that the tenant buyer is signing. That's why we love having them sit down with an attorney. So everything is in black and white and very clearly stated.
Yeah. So guys, once again, this isn't something that you can go on like the internet.com and go look for some contract and hopefully it's going to be working right. You're just setting yourself up.
So don't
for
use
disaster.
ChatGPT to create a contract.
No, have a lawyer or have somebody like who's spent a lot of time doing this, who have the right documents. And we've been to court. We've had to go through the eviction process, unfortunately, because people do people things. And unfortunately, we had that happen. But having the right documents and the right process made this so much easier. And so for sure, make sure you're doing the right thing.
Awesome. Well, that was so much fun. So make sure if you aren't in our Facebook group that you go join right now, Creative Finance Playbook with Jenn and Joe on Facebook. It's a free group. Come and join us. We hang out there. Deals are shared. We have the question box drop every single week. So if you have questions that didn't get answered today, go over there. Make sure you drop those down there and we'll come back here again and make sure we answer them.
Great job, gang.
Awesome. So make sure that you head over to creativefinanceplaybook.com, grab our free script and our what to say to sellers, and go ahead and post that into your Facebook groups. Tune in soon. We're having a free Facebook Live challenge. If you are around September 17th, 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be going live streaming and showing you exactly how you can go score a ton of deals for free by using this method.
Let's go, guys.
Yay!
Deal season.
All right, let's go. Have a great day.